On 26 January 1943, off the north coast of New Guinea, USS Wahoo sighted a small convoy tracked Buyo Maru, fired torpedoes that sank her, then battle-surfaced and engaged boats in the water. Commanded by Lieutenant Commander Dudley Walker Morton with Lieutenant Richard Hetherington O'Kane as Executive Officer, Wahoo displaced roughly 1,525 tons on the surface and about 2,424 tons when submerged. Her third war patrol aimed to choke Japanese reinforcement routes linking the Western Carolines to New Guinea's contested shores. Sea state was workable. Wahoo maintained contact and set up a close torpedo approach. Wahoo's crew, hardened by earlier missions, monitored sonar screens chasing faint pings of enemy vessels. Their task demanded exactitude, detect, track and strike without betraying their steel shell to counterstrikes. In the pre-dawn gloom, Wahoo raised periscope confirmed a small convoy with transport. Buyo Maru then set up a bow shot. The Imperial Japanese Army transport Buyo Maru, heavy with troops and cargo, sailed beside Pacific Maru and Fukure Maru. Number 2. Buyo Maru, a passenger cargo transport of about 5,447 gross register tons, bore 1,126 souls, including 491 Indian prisoners of war from the 2nd Battalion, 16th Punjab Regiment. Morton aligned Wahoo's bow, his orders crisp. Torpedoes launched in close, the second and third striking true and tearing into Buyo Maru's hull, erupting in geysers of foam. The ship lurched her decks, a tumult of soldiers and captives rushing for lifeboats. Rafts and small craft speckled the sea, rocking in the ocean's swell. Morton commanded Wahoo to battle surface her deck gun crew at the ready. Morton's patrol report noted small arms fire from some boats which he cited to justify returning fire with the deck gun. Wahoo's 4-inch gun and 20mm cannons roared, targeting vessels deemed to carry hostile troops. Shells ripped through the water, shattering wood and quelling resistance. The engagement was brief. Deck gun and 20mm bursts destroyed or disabled several boats before Wahoo dived and survivors scattered. Each decision, each salvo, followed the cold logic of naval combat, balancing risk and objective. From the Japanese vantage, panic gripped as Buyo Maru sank her hull, swallowed by the deep. Survivors clutched wreckage, cursing the invisible foe, shredding their lifeboats unaware of the submarine's reasoning. The blend of soldiers and prisoners muddled in the chaos, obscuring the full scope of the tragedy unfolding beneath the gunfire's din. Wahoo dove, slipping beneath the waves to evade potential escorts, her hull unscathed. The crew recorded the action, noting the convoy's disruption and the boat's apparent hostility. Morton's log framed the action as return fire. Later survivor accounts disputed the sequence. After action, debris fields and survivors were left drifting until Number 2, Choko Maru, arrived on 27 January. Japanese soldiers and Indian prisoners drifted under a relentless sun. The patrol pressed on Wahoo's mission, unaltered by the morning's violence. Her role in the broader campaign was clear: disrupt Japan's supply lines, weaken their hold on the Pacific. Each surfaced attack, each torpedo run, chipped away at the enemy's resolve. Yet the Buyo Maru action carried a shadow, its complexity buried in the moment's urgency. Hague X 1907 and the 1936 London Protocol barred attacks on shipwrecked survivors. The Buyo Maru case was later reassessed under these rules. No effective escort counteraction was observed. Wahoo executed approach and egress unscathed, a testament to her stealth. Her submerged speed, about 9 knots at depth, allowed precise positioning before the strike. Morton's decision to surface and engage reflected confidence in Wahoo's firepower and the crew's discipline. The 4-inch 50-deck gun, with a maximum range well over 15,000 yards in ideal conditions, dominated the scattered boats. Yet the presence of Indian prisoners, unknown to Wahoo's crew, complicated the action's aftermath. On 27 January, Number 2, Choko Maru rescued roughly 1,000 survivors and delivered them to Palau on 28 January. The sea indifferent bore witness to the collision of strategy and circumstance. As Wahoo vanished into the depths, the survivors faced a grueling ordeal. Lifeboats, some riddled with fragments, bobbed amid oil-slicked waves. The Indian prisoners captured earlier in the war shared the same peril as their Japanese guards, their fates intertwined in the Pacific's vastness. Wahoo's patrol, one of many in the submarine forces campaign, continued unabated, a silent predator beneath the surface. The Buyo Maru's sinking marked a tactical success, but its human cost would fuel debate for generations, a moment where precision met ambiguity in the crucible of war. Sea state remained workable on 26 January 1943. Debris fields and boats persisted across the area of the sinking. Survivors of Buyo Maru's sinking clung to lifeboats and debris, their numbers dwindling as hours crawled by. 1,126 souls had boarded the transport. Now 282 lay dead, 195 of them Indian prisoners from the 2nd Battalion, 16th Punjab Regiment, and 87 Japanese troops. Torpedoes and subsequent gunfire left a patchwork of shattered craft and desperate men. The Indian prisoners, bound by their captors' fate, faced the same hunger, thirst, and exposure as the Japanese soldiers beside them. Wahoo, her mission unrelenting, had vanished into the depths, her crew unaware of the prisoners' presence. A Gato-class hunter, she displaced roughly 1,525 tons on the surface and about 2,424 tons when submerged. Her third war patrol aimed to choke Japanese reinforcement routes linking the Western Carolines to New Guinea's contested shores. The laws of war, clear in theory, blurred in the chaos of battle. Morton's log noted small arms fire from some boats, framing the deck gun's use as a response. Post-war accounts would clash with O'Kane and Vice Admiral Charles Andrew Lockwood, affirming defensive fire, while other historians argued Wahoo fired first. Record remains contested: Wahoo log versus survivor testimony. On 27 January, rescue came. The Japanese ship No. 2 Choko Maru steamed toward the site, her crew scanning for survivors. Roughly 1,000 men, battered but alive, were pulled from the sea. The rescue, methodical despite the urgency, saved Japanese soldiers and Indian prisoners alike. By 28 January, Choko Maru delivered them to Palau. The survivors' ordeal ended, but their stories, especially those of the Indian prisoners, would later fuel scrutiny of the incident. From the survivors' perspective, the submarine's guns were a faceless terror tearing at boats in sudden bursts. Indian prisoners, already weakened by captivity, found themselves trapped between Japanese guards and an unseen enemy, their pleas swallowed by the sea's wind and spray. The number that matters is 1,000 survivors rescued after a day adrift. The operation could not erase the losses. The Indian prisoners of the 2nd Battalion, 16th Punjab Regiment, had been captured earlier in the war. Their presence on Buyo Maru, unknown to Wahoo's crew, turned a routine interdiction into a tragedy of consequence. Wahoo's patrol continued the boat, a phantom in the deep. Submerged speed of about 9 knots gave her the poise to stalk and position. When surfaced, her 4-inch 50-deck gun, capable in ideal conditions of ranges well over 15,000 yards, and her 20mm mounts provided harsh leverage at close boat distances. Yet the Buyo Maru action lingered, its details debated in wardrooms and histories. The engagement's brevity belied its weight. Numbers remained stark: 282 dead, about 1,000 rescued. The survivors, now in Palau, faced divergent fates. Japanese troops were returned to the rear. Indian prisoners endured continued captivity. The question of accountability did not fade. Wahoo's steel cocoon moved on to the next convoy, the next torpedo run, part of a campaign that cut Japan's lifelines. But this, sinking its mixed casualties and disputed sequence, endured as a case study of tactics colliding with ethics on an indifferent sea. The Pacific War churned on, but the strike of 26 January 1943 did not fade. Buyo Maru carried 1,126 people. 282 died, including 195 Indian prisoners of the 2 over 16 Punjab and 87 Japanese soldiers. These numbers, fixed in the record, anchored every debate that followed. Morton's decision to engage the boats, citing small arms fire observed from some craft, stood at the centre. His log, echoed by Richard Hetherington O'Kane and Vice Admiral Charles Andrew Lockwood, framed the bursts from Wahoo's guns as suppressive a response to hostility. Other accounts appearing later contended that Wahoo fired first. The laws of war forbade attacks on shipwrecked survivors. the fog of combat blurred intent and sequence. The 4-inch, 50-deck gun, capable in ideal conditions of ranges well over 15,000 yards, offered hard overmatch at lifeboat distances, but no range table could settle the ethics. Rescue arrived the next day. No. 2 Choko Maru hauled roughly 1,000 survivors from the sea and delivered them to Palau on 28 January. That count tempered the worst claims and complicated simpler narratives. Post-war examinations in the United States, Japan, and India rejected easy labels of massacre or clean combat. Wahoo engaged boats, believed to hold hostile troops. Many boats also held Allied prisoners who could not defend themselves. Both truths lived in the same water. Wahoo's war went on her patrols, cutting at Japan's lifelines until October 1943 in La Perouse Strait, when she was lost with all hands. The Buyo Maru action remained in her wake, numbers that could be tallied, testimonies that could not be reconciled, and a lesson carried forward in submarine warfare. Tactics and law often met in seconds, and history spent decades passing the baton. Shot. The Pacific, a vast chessboard of steel and shadow, defined 1943's naval war. United States submarines, Wahoo among them, hunted Japan's lifelines, their torpedoes aimed at the heart of an empire. Wahoo, a Gato-class predator of roughly 1,525 tons on the surface and about 2,424 tons when submerged, sliced through supply routes to New Guinea and beyond. The Buyo Maru, sinking one strike among dozens, reflected the submarine force's relentless mission choke Japan's ability to wage war. United States submarines would ultimately account for over half of Japan's merchant tonnage, sunk during the war, a toll measured in millions of tons. Wahoo's third patrol, including the 26 January attack, exemplified this silent war. Her submerged speed, about 9 knots, allowed stealthy approaches. Her 4-inch 50-deck gun was a final arbiter when surfaced. Buyo Maru, carrying 1,126 souls, was a high-value target. Her cargo, troops, supplies, and unseen Indian prisoners vital to Japan's campaign. The engagement, costing 282 lives, underscored the stakes. Each sinking tightened the noose, but incidents like Buyo Maru revealed the strategy's darker edges, where tactical success clashed with unintended loss. From Japan's perspective, submarines were ghosts striking without warning, shredding convoys vital to their war machine. Commanders in Tokyo read reports of losses like Buyo Maru, with mounting alarm, their supply lines bleeding under relentless pressure. The Indian prisoners' deaths added weight to the controversy that followed. The number that matters is 9 knots of stealth, defining Wahoo's hunt. Submarine commanders like Morton operated with autonomy, their decisions shaped by incomplete data. The laws of war prohibiting attacks on survivors haunted actions like Buyo Maru's, where small arms fire reported by Wahoo's crew and disputed by others prompted deadly force. Post-war records, sifting through roughly 1,000 survivors' accounts, struggled to untangle intent from outcome. The incident, though a tactical win, became a lens for examining the submarine war's moral cost. The campaign's scope dwarfed individual actions. Submarines, often outnumbered, faced depth charges and air patrols, their survival hinging on skill and silence. Wahoo's loss in October 1943 in La Perouse Strait underscored the risks. Her crew vanished with her into the Pacific's depths. Yet their efforts sinking ships like Buyo Maru crippled Japan's economy, hastening surrender by 1945. The 4-inch 50-deck gun, with a maximum range well over 15,000 yards in ideal conditions, symbolized their reach. But the human toll, 282 dead in one strike, grounded the numbers in reality. The Buyo Maru incident, dissected alongside others, shaped naval doctrine. Submarine tactics evolved, emphasizing precision to avoid ambiguous engagements. The Indian prisoner's fate, a tragedy within a tragedy, highlighted the need for better intelligence. Japan's weakened navy by 1944 struggled to protect convoys, a direct result of Wahoo's ilk. Wahoo's measures of presence, 1,525 tons, surfaced about 2,424 tons. Submerged, remained a constant, a steel testament to the campaign's grind. The silent war fought beneath the waves reshaped the Pacific. On 26 January 1943, USS Wahoo sank the transport Buyo Maru. Gunfire at boats in the water, where Indian prisoners were present, left 282 dead and forced navies to confront the rules that failed them. The survivors, about 1,000 strong, bore witness to war's cruel arithmetic, their rescue by no. 2 Choko Maru, a fleeting reprieve. The dead, including 195 prisoners of the 2nd Battalion 16th Punjab Regiment, spoke louder in posterity, their loss a cautionary note in naval histories. The sea, unyielding, swallowed the wreckage, leaving only records to pass the collision of strategy, necessity, and sorrow. Under a Pacific sun on 26 January 1943, Wahoo closed the distance to Buyo Maru, and the line between combat and consequence thinned. The Buyo Maru incident, a fleeting clash, endured as a touchstone for naval ethics. 1,126 souls were aboard the transport. 282 were dead, including 195 Indian prisoners of the 2nd Battalion 16th Punjab Regiment, framing debates that outlasted the conflict. Wahoo, a Gato-class submarine of roughly 1,525 tons on the surface and about 2,424 tons, when submerged, struck that day in a way that raised questions, transcending steel and strategy. She would be lost in La Perouse Strait in October 1943. Post-war inquiries and naval histories scrutinized submarine warfare, with Buyo Maru a recurring case. The laws of war prohibiting attacks on shipwrecked survivors clashed with the realities of split-second decisions. Morton's log, citing small arms fire from lifeboats, defended Wahoo's gunfire, a stance echoed by Richard Hetherington O'Kane and Vice Admiral Charles Andrew Lockwood. Yet survivor accounts, particularly from Indian prisoners, described chaos and lethal fire, challenging U.S. claims. The 4-inch 50-deck gun, capable in ideal conditions of ranges well over 15,000 yards, ensured tactical control at lifeboat distances. But the presence of prisoners unknown to Wahoo recast the action as a tragic error. From the Indian perspective, the prisoners' deaths were a bitter wound, their loss overshadowed by war's broader narrative. Families in Punjab mourned, sons lost not to ground combat but to a submarine strike, their stories preserved in later accounts. Japanese records, while focused on strategic losses, noted the incident's ferocity, amplifying calls for clearer wartime protocols. The constraint was intelligence. Unknown prisoners altered the action's moral weight. Naval doctrine evolved, emphasizing reconnaissance to prevent such oversights. Roughly 1,000 survivors rescued by no. 2 Choko Maru carried their ordeal into post-war life, their testimonies shaping inquiries. The Indian prisoners, some repatriated after Japan's surrender, bore witness to war's indiscriminate toll, their number among the dead fixed at 195 of the 282. Submarine warfare's legacy, forged by Wahoo and her kin, reshaped naval strategy. By 1945, Japan's merchant fleet lay in ruins, a testament to the silent war's efficacy. Wahoo's submerged speed, about 9 knots, and her stealth underscored the campaign's risks as much as its reach. Morton's posthumous honours celebrated his aggression, but Buyo Maru tempered his myth, a reminder of war's moral ledger. The Indian prisoners' fate resonated beyond military circles. In India, emerging from colonial rule, their story added to narratives of sacrifice. The incident, debated in U.S. Japanese and Indian records, highlighted the need for ethical clarity in naval warfare, influencing modern rules of engagement. The Buyo Maru, sinking neither aberration nor archetype, stood as a warning. Its numbers, 282 dead, about 1,000, rescued, anchored analyses, but the human toll defied metrics. Wahoo's measures of presence, 1,525 tons, surfaced about 2,424 tons, submerged, symbolized her role in victory, yet her actions that day questioned the cost. The sea, eternal and impartial, held the wreckage, its silence a canvas for historians parsing intent, error, and consequence. The incident's echoes, felt across decades, urged navies to balance precision with humanity, lest strategy drown in sorrow. Under a Pacific sky stilled by post-war quiet, The lessons of 1945 washed back over a violent morning 2 years earlier. The Buyo Maru incident, a violent moment on 26 January 1943, shaped post-war efforts to refine the laws of naval warfare. 1,126 souls aboard the transport, 282 dead, including 195 Indian prisoners of the 2nd Battalion, 16th Punjab Regiment, underscored the need for clearer maritime protocols. Wahoo, a Gato-class submarine of roughly 1,525 tons on the surface and about 2,424 tons when submerged, had struck that day. Her actions against boats in the water exposed gaps in wartime rules, and she herself would be lost in La Perouse Strait in October 1943. International law, including the 1907 Hague Convention X on the Sea and the 1936 London Protocol on Submarine Warfare, prohibited attacks on shipwrecked survivors. Buyo Maru highlighted the enforcement problems in real combat. Morton's log, backed by Richard Hetherington O'Kane and Vice Admiral Charles Andrew Lockwood, cited small arms fire from some boats to justify Wahoo's gunfire. Indian and Japanese survivor accounts described lethal fire that they viewed as unprovoked. The 4-inch, 50-deck gun, capable in ideal conditions of ranges well over 15,000 yards, ensured overmatch at lifeboat distances. But the unseen prisoner's presence turned a tactical decision into a moral quandary. From the perspective of international jurists, Buyo Maru's mixed casualties demanded accountability, their plight a call for stricter compliance. Indian prisoners adrift with Japanese troops faced death without distinction, their loss a stark reminder of war's blurred lines. The constraint was intelligence unknown prisoners, altered the action's moral weight. Post-war, the 1949 Geneva Conventions, notably Geneva Convention II, clarified protections for shipwrecked persons at sea. Incidents of this kind, among many others, fed the debates that shaped those rules. Roughly 1,000 survivors rescued by No. 2 Choko Maru carried their ordeal into post-war life, their testimonies informing inquiries. The dead 195 among 282 became symbols of warfare's hidden costs. Submarine warfare's legacy, forged by Wahoo and her kin, reshaped naval strategy. By 1945, Japan's merchant fleet lay in ruins, a testament to the silent war's efficacy. Wahoo's submerged speed about 9 knots and her stealth exemplified the campaign's reach and risk. Morton's posthumous honours marked his aggression, but Buyo Maru tempered the myth, a ledger entry on war's moral costs. The Indian prisoner's story, preserved in Punjab's memory, resonated in a decolonizing world, their sacrifice a call for justice. The incident, debated in U.S., Japanese and Indian records, highlighted the need for ethical clarity in naval warfare, influencing how modern rules of engagement are taught and enforced. The Buyo Maru, sinking neither aberration nor archetype, stood as a warning. Its numbers, 282, dead, about 1,000 rescued, anchored analyses, but the human toll defied metrics. Wahoo's measures of presence, 1,525 tons, surfaced about 2,424 tons submerged, symbolized her era's might. Yet her actions that day urged restraint. The sea, indifferent to human laws, held the wreckage. Historians have since passed intent, error, and consequence. The incident's echoes, felt across decades, urged navies to balance precision with humanity, lest strategy drown in sorrow. The war's end in 1945 brought India to a new dawn. Its independence won in 1947. The Buyo Maru incident, a scar from 26 January 1943, lived on in the hearts of its survivors. 1,126 souls had sailed on the transport, 282 perished, including 195 Indian prisoners of the 2nd Battalion, 16th Punjab Regiment. Roughly 1,000 survivors, Japanese soldiers and Indian prisoners alike, were rescued by No. 2 Choko Maru and landed at Palau on 28 January. Wahoo, a Gato-class submarine of roughly 1,525 tons on the surface and about 2,424 tons when submerged, cast a long shadow over that day. The Indian prisoners, repatriated after Japan's surrender, returned to a homeland in upheaval. Their ranks bore the marks of captivity, wounds, malnutrition, and the memory of the Pacific nightmare. The 4-inch, 50-deck gun, capable in ideal conditions of ranges well over 15,000 yards, had spoken at lifeboat distances. Families mourned. The 195 lost their names kept in regimental memory and local remembrance. From the survivors' perspective, the sea's terror remained vivid. Wahoo's guns, a faceless force in the chaos. In Punjab's fields, accounts blended gratitude with grief, the figures of Japanese guards, and an unseen attacker merging in recollection. The number that matters is 1,000 survivors who rebuilt lives in a free India. The regiment restored in the postwar army honoured its fallen. The story of Buyo Maru threaded into the wider narrative of independence. Some survivors faced the violence of partition, layering trauma upon trauma. Endurance became its own testimony. Nation-building brought uneven recognition. Records of individual prisoners were often thin, but communities kept the stories alive. The 282 dead, including 195 prisoners, stood as a measure of war's cost. Wahoo's submerged speed about 9 knots, and her stealth had altered lives far from her steel hull. Yet those who lived sought meaning beyond cold metrics. In naval circles, Buyo Maru's legacy informed ethical discussion of submarine warfare. The 2nd Battalion 16th Punjab Regiment carried forward its dead and its lessons. The sea kept its wreckage, the land its living. The survivors' children born in a free India grew up on stories of the Pacific, their fathers' survival, a bridge to a proud if pained heritage. The incident's numbers about 1,000, rescued 282 dead, entered regimental annals. Wahoo's measures of presence, 1,525 tons, surfaced about 2,424 tons, submerged, faded from daily life, but the memory endured, a reminder of a war that spared some, claimed others, leaving India to heal.